So first question is explain JDK, JRE and JVM. So you already know about what is the JDK, what is JRE and what is JVM, but interviewer expect from you you should know about the difference between JDK, JRE and JVM. So JDK stands for Java Development Kit and JRE stands for Java Runtime Environment and JVM stands for Java Virtual Machine. You already know what that. But what is the actual difference? So whenever we try to and whenever we want to compile and execute Java code in our system, so we need to install JDK in our system. Okay, so first we install Java Development Kit and download this Java Development Kit from the official website of Java. Okay, and we install this Java Development Kit. So it is the tool necessary to compile the Java code and to document the Java code and package Java programs. Okay, so in JDK it contains JRE plus development tools. So first we install JDK in our system, this development kit in our system. This kit and this tool contains JRE plus some development tools. Okay, so first part is JDK. I hope you understood. Okay, next is inside this JDK kit there is a runtime environment which refers to by which our Java bytecode can be executed. Okay, so to execute Java bytecode we need this runtime environment. First we install Java Development Kit, set up the runtime path in our system. Okay, Java path in our system. So this runtime environment helps us to execute our Java bytecode, and we can say it's an implementation of a JVM which physically exists. So first is JDK, next is JRE, and after this is JVM, Java Virtual Machine. So it is an abstract machine and we can say hidden implementation machine. So it is a specification that provides a runtime environment. Okay, and in which Java bytecode can be executed. So don't confuse between JRE and JVM. First is JRE which contains JVM. So we can say JRE is an implementation of the JVM. To implement JVM and to if we want to use JVM we need JRE. Okay, so to help the implementation of JVM we need JRE. Okay, so JRE is an implementation of JVM which physically exists, and JVM does not physically exist. It is virtual and abstract machine. So first difference is JRE is physical exist and JVM does not physically exist because it is an abstract and virtual machine. Okay, and it is a specification that provides a runtime environment in which Java bytecode can be executed. Okay, so JRE is also responsible for execution of Java bytecode, but to perform this action we need JVM. So JRE implements the JVM, and JVM follows three notations. First is specification, implementation and runtime instance. So we will discuss about this later. Okay, so I hope you understood about this. First is JDK. We need to install JDK kit in our system and set up runtime path in our system, and after this there is JVM which is responsible for the execution of and responsible for providing runtime environment and for execution of Java bytecode. Okay, so I hope you understood. So next is explain public static void main. Okay, in every program we need to write this main, public static void main, in our starting, and inside this we perform all our execution and all our operations. So but what is the actual meaning of this public static void main and this string argument in Java? So we should know about this. Okay, so first is main method. Main method in Java is the entry point for any Java program. Okay, so it is always written as public. Okay, public access modifier, public static void main string argument. Okay, and public is public access modifier which is used to specify who can access this method. So we use public because it will be accessible by any class. Okay, any number of class which we want to use in our program. So this main method can be used by any class. Okay, so what is static? What is the purpose of static in this main method? So it is a keyword in Java which identifies it is a class based. Okay, but why we use static? So purpose of static in our main method is main is not made static. Okay, so then the compiler will throw an error because main is called by the JVM before any objects are made. So if we don't use static in our main method, so compiler will throw an error as main is called by the JVM before any objects are made, and only static methods can be directly invoked via the class. So we actually don't need any object to for this method if we use static. Okay, if we use static method, so we don't need any object to initialize and to call this method. Okay, so we basically use this static method. By this we can directly invoke via the class. So what is the purpose of this void? You already know about the void in C and C++. So it is the return type of the method, and void defines the method which will not return any value. Okay, and main is the basically name of method which is searched by the JVM, and we can say is a starting point for an application with a particular signature only, and it is a method where the main execution occurs. So main is the starting point of any Java program, and string argument, it is the parameter passed to the main method. So we will discuss about this string argument in later. Okay, so I hope you understood what is the main and public, static, void, main. Okay, so next question is why Java is platform independent. This question is very important. Okay, so why Java is platform independent? So Java is called platform independent because of its bytecode, because Java bytecodes which can run on any system irrespective of its underlying operating system. We need to write once and read anywhere. So it follows the write once and read anywhere principle. So we need to write first Java code and need to execute. So by this, the bytecode of the that particular Java program which can run on any system irrespective of its underlying operating system by using JVM. Okay, so JVM helps us to run our Java program anywhere. Okay, and any system irrespective of its underlying operating system. Okay, so I hope you understood. Okay, so this question is also very important. Why Java is not 100% object oriented? Okay, most of you don't know about this because this question can be we can say why Java is not purely object oriented. Java is object oriented language, but Java is not purely object oriented language, and we can say Java is not 100% object oriented language. There is a reason, because according to object oriented principle, Java does not follows one principle which says if any language, and we can say any language which have a particular primitive data types, so that primitive data types should be objects. But in Java, because it makes use of Java have 8 primitive data types such as boolean, byte, character, int, float, double, long, short, which are not objects. So it violates the principle of 100% object oriented language. That's why Java is not called purely object oriented language. Okay, I hope you understood, because the primitive data types which we have in Java which are not objects. Okay, so to follow the principle of, and we can say to 100% object oriented language. Okay, so Java primitive data types should be and must be objects. So okay, I hope you understood. That's why Java is not 100% purely object oriented language. Okay, so what are wrapper classes in Java? Okay, so wrapper classes converts the primitive data types. We have primitive data types in Java: character, byte, short, long, float, double, boolean. So wrapper class is responsible to convert the Java primitives into the reference type. Okay, and we can say objects. So what is the actual purpose of wrapper class? So we have primitive data type which have a class dedicated to it. Okay, these are known as wrapper class. We have different data types: character, byte, short. So we also have dedicated class to it. Okay, and these classes are known as wrapper class because they wrap the primitive data type into an object of that class. And refer to below image which we can see these are different primitive data types, and these are different wrapper class corresponding to this primitive data types. So we will discuss about this later, what is the actual use of this wrapper class, but you should know about what is wrapper class. So wrapper class, we have different data types in our Java, and that primitive data types has a class dedicated to it, and that particular classes are called wrapper classes. Okay, So I hope you understood. So next is, what are constructor in Java? I know most of you already know about constructor in Java. So in Java, constructor refers to the block of code, and we can say which is used to initialize an object, and it must have the same name as that of a class. Okay, so constructor is simply a block of code which is responsible to initialize an object, and rule is it must have the same name as that of the class. Okay, and also it has no return type. Okay, constructor has no return type, and it is also automatically called when an object is created. Okay, so there are basically two types of constructors. First is default constructor, and second is parameterized constructor. So default constructor is simple constructor which does not take any inputs. In other words, default constructor are those constructors which have not any arguments, and we can say which have not any parameters, which will be created by default in case no other constructor is defined by the user. So its main purpose is simply to initialize the instance variable with the default values. Okay, also it is majorly responsible for object creation, as simple. Okay, and next is parameterized constructor. So as the name says, the parameterized, so is the constructor which is capable of initializing the instance variable with the provided values. So we can pass the values to this parameterized constructor. In other words, we can see the constructor which take the arguments are called parameterized constructor. I hope you understood what is the difference between default constructor and parameterized constructor, and what is constructor in Java. Okay, so next is, what is singleton class in Java, and how can we make a class singleton? So singleton is simple, a class whose only one instance can be created at any given time. So we can only create one instance variable at any given time in one JVM. Okay, a class can be made singleton by making its constructor private. So we will discuss about this later, but you should know about what is singleton class. So you can simply define a singleton class is a class whose only one instance can be created at any given time in one JVM, and a class can be made singleton class by making its constructor private. Okay, I hope you understood. So next is, what is the difference between array list and vector? Okay, so array list, first difference is array list is not synchronized. Okay, so array list is not synchronized, whereas vector is synchronized. Don't worry about this, we will discuss about array list and vector in our next video, but you should know about for your interview what is the difference between array list and vector. And if you already know about what is array list, and if you already know about what is vector, so you should also know about what is the difference between array list and vector. So if you have any problem, if you want any separate and individual video for array list and vector with their program and explanation, so you can comment. Okay, so array list is not synchronized, first difference is, whereas vector is synchronized. Okay, and if we talk about array list, so array list is fast as compared to vector, as it's non-synchronized. Okay, because synchronization is not possible in array list, and because of synchronization, vector is slow, and as it is thread safe, safety is applicable in vector, and because of this synchronization, safety is there, but vector is slow. Okay, and in array list is fast because as there is non-synchronization. Okay, and next is, if an element is inserted into the array list, it increases its array size by 50%. Okay, and in vector defaults to doubling size of its array. Okay, next, array list does not define the increment size. We don't need to define any increment size in array list, it automatically increase the increment size. Okay, in vector we need to define the increment size. Okay, in array list we can only use iterator for traversing an array list. Okay, if we want to traverse our array list, so we can only use iterator for traversing our array list. In vector we can use both enumeration and iterator for traversing. We can also use enumeration, okay, and iterator for traversing. So we will discuss about this later in our next video, what is array list and vector, but you should know about the difference between array list and vector. Okay, so I hope you understood. So what is the difference between equals method and equals in Java? Okay, so equals is basically a method, is defined in object class in Java and used for checking equality of two objects, okay, defined by business logic. Whereas equals or equality operator in Java is a binary operator provided by Java programming language and used to compare primitives and objects. Okay, so we can simply say equals is a method okay, is then defined in object class in Java, okay, and used for checking equality. And equals is an equality operator, not a method, okay. In Java is a binary operator, okay, and used to compare primitives and objects, okay. And public boolean equals is the method provided by object class. So default implementation uses equals to operator to compare two objects, okay. So method can be overridden like string class. Equals method is used to compare the value of two objects, okay. So I hope you understood what is the difference between equals. Equals is method, is defined in object class, and equals is an equality operator in Java is and it's a binary operator provided by Java, which is used to compare primitives and objects. So next is, what are the difference between heap and stack memory in Java? So there are different memory portions in Java: heap, stack. So what is the difference between stack and heap portion? So with respect to different features, so first if we talk about stack with respect to memory, so stack memory is used only by one thread of execution, okay. So stack memory is used only by one thread of execution at a time, and heap memory is dynamic, so it is used by all the parts of the application, okay. And if we talk about access feature, the stack memory can't be accessed by other thread, okay, because stack memory is used only by one thread of execution at a time, okay. If we talk about heap, so objects created in the heaps are globally accessible, okay. If we talk about memory management features, so stack follows last in first out manner to free memory, you already know about that. And if we talk about heap, memory management is based on the generation associated with each object, okay. So it is dynamic, it is based on the generation associated with each object. If we talk about lifetime, so exist until the end of execution of the thread, okay. So if we talk about heap memory lives from the start till the end of application execution, and stack exists until the end of execution of the thread, and it will exist until the till the end of application execution, okay. If we talk about usage, so stack memory only contains local primitives and reference variable to object in heap space, okay. And whereas heap, whenever an object is created, it's always stored in the heap space, okay. Stack memory only contains local primitives and reference variable, and whereas object is created, it's always stored in the heap space. I hope you understood the difference between stack and heap. So next is what is a package in Java? You already know about what is a package in Java. So list out various advantages of package. So packages in Java are the collection of related classes and interfaces which are bundled together, okay. You already know about what is package, okay. So we import different packages in our program. By using package, developer can easily modularize the code and optimize its reuse, okay. So what is the actual and various advantages of package? So also the code within the package can be imported by other classes and reused. So list out different advantages. So first advantage, packages help in avoiding name clashes, okay. So it helps us to avoid different name clashes and also provide easier access control on the code, okay. And it can also contain hidden classes which are not visible to outer classes, so we just need to simply import that particular class and particular package, okay, by which we can use the feature of that particular program, okay, and only used within the package. And also creates a proper hierarchical structure which makes it easier to locate the related class, okay. So I hope you understood. Next is why pointer are not used in Java. We can use pointer in C and C++, but why we can't use pointer in Java? So there is a specific reason related to safety. So Java does not use pointer because they are unsafe and increases the complexity of the program. So Java is also always known for its simplicity of a code. So if we use pointer in Java and adding the concept of pointer, it will be contradict, okay. So moreover, since JVM is responsible for implicit memory allocation in Java, so in order to avoid direct access to memory by the user, pointer are discouraged in Java, and for the safety purpose we can't use pointer in Java. So okay, so I hope you understood. So next is what is JIT compiler in Java. Okay, so there is a compiler in Java, JIT compiler, which stands for just-in-time compiler. Okay, so it is also very important question. So it is a program that helps in converting the Java bytecode into instruction. Okay, and there is a specific purpose for which we need to convert Java bytecode into instruction that are sent directly to the processor. So by default, the JIT compiler is enabled in Java and is activated when our Java method is invoked. So JIT compiler then compiles the Java code of the invoked method and call method into native machine code and compile it just in time to execute. Once the method has been compiled, then JVM summons the compiled code of the method directly rather than interpreting it. This is why it is often responsible for the performance of optimization of Java application and return time. So whenever we write any method in our Java program, so that particular method first is invoked, okay, and JIT is responsible to convert that particular Java bytecode into instruction, which is basically helpful for and responsible for the performance optimization of Java applications at the runtime. So it directly invoked method is converted into native machine codes, okay, and then compile it just in time to execute. Okay, so just in time compiler. I hope you understood. So next is what are the different access modifier in Java and what is the difference between all access modifiers in Java. So you already know what is access modifier. Access modifier are special keywords which are used to restrict the access of a class, constructor, data member, and method in another class. Okay, so if you want any restriction, if you want to provide any restriction to the access of a class, particular constructor, data member, and method, so we can use different access modifier. So there are basically 4 types of access modifier: default, private, protected, and public. So with respect to different accessibility, same class, same package, subclass. So if we talk about default access modifier, so within same class it can be accessible, and if we talk about same package subclass, it is also accessible. Okay, if we talk about same package non subclass, so it can be accessible. Okay, and if we talk about different package subclass, okay, so it can't be accessible. Okay, and if we talk about different package non subclass, so it also can't be accessible. If we talk about public access modifier, so it can be accessible for all classes and all same class, same package subclass, and same package non subclass, different package subclass. If we talk about private access modifier, so it can be only accessible same class, within same class. Okay, and if we talk about protected access modifier, so it can be accessible by all classes except different package non subclass. So there is a restriction for different package non subclass. Public is accessible for all classes, private is only accessible within class, and protected is accessible by all classes except different package non subclass, and default is accessible for same class, for same package subclass, and for same package non subclass, but for different package and for different package non subclass it can't be accessible. So I hope you understood what are different access modifier and what is the actual restriction between different classes and subclasses for different access modifier. So if we talk about I know it's very simple question, what is a class in Java, but most of the question can't give the proper definition of the class and object in Java. That's why I took this question in this video. Okay, so what is a class in Java? So class is simply and we can say it is a blueprint which includes all your data. Okay, so class contain fields, variables, and method to describe the behavior of object. If we talk about the basic syntax, so we only need to use this class keyword and user defined class name, and whatever member, variable, and method you want you can include in this class. Okay, so class is simply a blueprint which can includes all your data. Okay, so if we